27th of January, 2025.
Coming up on today's Global Intelligence Agency Operations Report. The lost continent of D'Aria in the Arctic and Antarctica reveals many secrets. How was it tied to the manipulation of human genetics and the reason why Trump wants to buy Greenland? The Trump operatives and the Dragon families are going around in a circle as the game of who will control the world continues. And the creator Golden Age AI strikes back.
Well, it's the 27th of January. I've got a big night, so it'll be the GIA report, and then I am off to do an interview with George, the Iceman. So that'll be live on YouTube. I think we put the links on social media. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. Haven't talked to George in a little bit. So I guess the topic of that tonight is the Trump fallout or Trump effect. So this should be interesting and it'll probably be a lot of fun. So let's talk about what's really going on in the world. So we'll talk a little bit about what's been going on with this little back and forth thing with China. But right now I want to talk about something more important. So there's a very small amount of history on the internet that talks about the lost continent of D'Aria. And the lost continent of D'Aria was allegedly the source of the Aryans, but it really kind of wasn't. But it supposedly was in the north. It was supposedly be in the Arctic Ocean, north of Russia. Allegedly, it was a part of Russia or Rusland at one point in time, as it's talked about in our history. And supposedly the continent sunk. But that's not entirely true. Now, in the Arctic currently, also in the Antarctic, there is what we call an overlay. To us, it looks like it's a hologram, but it's more than a hologram. It's almost like a biosphere because it is a way for a certain species to actually live there. And by species, we mean non-humans. You call these people the tall whites. And they have been living in this region and in this area for a very long time. They had been brought here as slaves. They were enslaved in these biospheres by Marduk and forced to work for him. Interestingly enough, underneath these biospheres were extremely large goo data centers. And contained within these extremely large data centers was all the information about human genetics and human genetic modifications. Most of the information in there was not in our favor. It wasn't our actual genetics. It was more of a, let's just say, genetic modification program that Marduk would send to the tall whites. Now, why the tall whites? I've talked about them before, but I'm going to reiterate that they are the biologists. They, all things nature and how to, I hate to use the word manipulate, but how to best utilize and help nature. They understand the circle of life very well, natural life, and that's why they were originally brought here. Not only to genetically manipulate humans, but also to manipulate others as other areas and planets were conquered. They've probably been in this region for over 300,000 years, so longer than the seal or the final takeover of Earth by others. Again, I should say, they were at one point in time forced to work with many different human groups on the planet, the SSP being no exception. There were communications and entryway points to these alternative, in another plane, biospheres. I would say that the entry points were like in Greenland. Isn't that a coincidence? And there were a couple of points in Russia at one point. Finland was another. And then in the Arctic, Argentina, which is why Hitler went down there and retired. in that area. So until Marduk departed, they worked exclusively and were enslaved by them. However, all of the Nazi and Hydra-Nazi genetic modification programs actually were really run by these folks. All the information came from these folks. And I guess you would say on behalf of Marduk, because all of the orders came from there. Hence the data centers and all the data collection, and all of that would go into the AI systems, the dark AI systems, and then would be filtered out to humanity. They wore, and as did we, what you would call a etherical ball and chain. What that means is if you somehow broke out of the genetic manipulation programs, you would get what I call zapped. You would feel sick. You might be given some kind of a disease. You might live a short period of time, especially those that come into this planet awake, which a lot of children do from time to time, and more so lately. So these programs haven't really been running on humans for a while. I would say since about March of 2017. They finally figured out that there is no Marduk. They didn't really trust humans. My first interaction with these people is in March, or folks, I should say, was in March of 2017, in which we made an agreement because the humans were looking to, let's just say, cause a lot of problems at that time. There were about 24 flying machines, non-human craft, that they thought that they could fly, and they were trying to power at that time, both in the Arctic and in the Antarctic, and they wanted the possession of those machines so that they could create devastating events in 24 major cities around the world. That obviously didn't take place. That didn't happen. Putin was actually involved in that at that time, as were most of the Black Sun Nazi program folks. The reason why I'm bringing this up now is because this is something that came up over the weekend as the humans, the SSP, tried to make entry into this facility. And I was once again called and they asked me, what do we do? Of course, those tunnels have been kind of broken down a long time ago. There really isn't an entry point there. They wanted access to the databases that they had, obviously to cause us harm. And yes, by SSP, I also mean the Trump operatives. They also wanted to proliferate what they're calling Disease X. They definitely do not have humanity's interest at heart in any way, shape, or form. And that's evident by their actions. So they're really running around trying to get access to things that they don't understand. These folks are not their friends. They never were their friends. They were co-slaves who inhabited this planet that were forced to work with them at one point in time. That's no longer the case. They have also been traveling back and forth to their home where they are from. We'll leave it at that. And they are doing just fine. They are re-terraforming their planet. They have no interest in harming us. But once we found out what they were looking for, I don't even think they know what they were looking for. They just thought it was some kind of Marduk database that could help them get some money. I guess that's what it sounded like from the chatter. That obviously is not what they would have found there in any way, shape, or form. And there was some talk about Disease X, so they must have known there's something in there. So the decision had to be made over the course of the weekend, meaning Friday through Sunday, on how we were going to handle this, because they actually offered to stay here, or go back and forth, I should say, from where they're from to here. And I'm saying where they're from because this is public and I don't really care to allow the SSP to cause them any issues at this time. They agreed to go back and forth, and they agreed to help us. Now, at this moment, they've been helping us off and on because once Mardik wasn't here and they were allowed to leave there, they've helped us with certain situations in Greenland. They've helped us with certain situations in the States. So they have been quite helpful over the last several years and have kind of proven, and we've proven to them that we can work together and not cause harm. So they seem to be pretty happy at the moment. They did offer to help unwind some of the damage that they were forced to do. So that's a positive for us. And that's something that we've been talking about, discussing, and working on over the weekend. This is new. So I'm hopeful that some of the things they intend to do, not only for us, but also for Earth, bringing back plants, learning a little bit more about how we can gently create a better atmosphere without interruption for humans to exist. They also have discussed giving us information on how to reverse diseases and a lot of technologies that they have access to. One of the questions I'm always asked about is med beds. When can we get a med bed? And what is a med bed? There are many definitions of quote unquote med beds. But at this point in time, I'll tell you what would happen. If we have real ones, which these folks could definitely help us with, it would be something you would have to sleep in every night because our environment's so bad. Our food is so bad. Our diet is so bad. Our water is infected with everything you can possibly imagine. And we would have to keep continuing to undo this damage constantly and create a different type of mitochondria and telomere lengthening and a bunch of other things too. That can be done with these, but it would be a battle. So it's like going to work out for 2 hours a day and then eating a chocolate cake every night. It's kind of like counterproductive, and that's what we would see. So it's important that we do have access to these technologies, and as soon as it's safe to do so, some of that stuff will come out, hopefully sooner than later, because these are things that we could definitely use. But meanwhile, they're going to use what they have and try to counteract the adverse effects of our current environment. So this will be a positive. Hopefully, they will be exchanging with us information soon. I mean, we could get that information right now, but if I get that, then they're going to try to take it, and they want it for themselves because they're still crazy at this moment. And they're getting crazier by the day. So over the weekend, the other thing that happened is obviously no pay came on Friday, as promised. The countries are getting restless. There is a lot of chatter as far as not believing in the Trump operatives anymore, not believing that them getting back into the White House is actually going to do anything. The other thing that is quite confusing for many folks of the deep state, including the World Economic Forum, is these people tend not to be very organized. They say one thing and then say another thing within 2 days. As an example, they announced to the World Economic Forum there would be no central bank digital currency, and so on and so forth. Well, of course there's going to be no central bank digital currency, not because these people are stopping it. There are many people, including deep state members in Korea, South Korea, North Korea, China, who have USDT, which is a digital United States dollar, that they have not been able to cash in on it. Some of these folks have upwards of $300 billion to $500 billion in their quote unquote wallets. A lot of folks in South Africa also have these fake notes. Saudi Arabia has these fake notes. Kuwait has these fake notes. They have tossed this stuff around everywhere with a promise once Trump got in, that everything would be fine. Well, last week was, well, he just got in. Give us a week. 7 to 10 days. That would bring us to this Friday on the outer end of that, Wednesday on the earlier end of that. So everybody is planning on cashing in their USD by this weekend, by Friday. And that's not going to happen. So he makes an announcement that there's not going to be digital currency. And then all of a sudden, a couple days later, I am your crypto president. There's an executive order that comes out. And now he's the crypto president. And all the crypto is going to be good. Why? Because the operatives are realizing no one knows what promises the other ones made, maybe. They talk out of both sides of their mouth. Everybody is confused as to who's doing what. First, we're endorsing mRNA vaccines. Now we're not endorsing mRNA vaccines. Oh, wait, Pfizer came to the White House. Now we're endorsing mRNA vaccines again. We don't know what we're doing. Maybe if we launch disease X, people will buy more vaccines, and then we can please everybody. Well, the problem is when you make so many promises, you can't give 200% of something. You can't. It doesn't exist. You can give 100% of your time, your energy, lots of different things, but you can't give 200%. And that's exactly what they've done. It's probably more like 10,000%. They have gone to everybody under the sun. They've gone to the mafia organizations where they used to get money. They've gone back to the Kuwaitis. They want to cash in their dollars. They've gone back to the Japanese. They want to cash in their stuff first. Yeah. Well, everybody's going to be really disappointed come this weekend. Now, because there was a big disappointment on Friday of the Trump operatives, everybody else came to the party and thought they'd throw the hat in the ring. So we had Rothschild show up promising fake gold certificates to the U.S., that they would back the U.S. dollar with their non-existent gold and exchange for power over the United States. Well, some of the Trump operatives wanted to do that. Some of them didn't. But here's the clincher. And this is the one thing at least they're learning. Congratulations, people. Is that when they promise something, along with it has to come codes, to withdraw, master codes, master keys. And true to form, they tried those immediately this time. Great job. And of course, they didn't work. On the flip side of it, the second that their stuff didn't work, the Chinese said they now are the ones who launched the Golden Age AI, and that's why the Trump operatives couldn't get any access. So this sent the Orsini families and the Pallavicini families into a little bit of a tizzy yesterday. They are like, wait a minute, who controls this thing? Well, you're looking at her. I built it. It's got my name on it. Key Integrated Monetary System, Key Intelligence and Military System, KIMS, me. See? Me. But that doesn't stop everybody from trying to claim that they control it. This untenuous situation with the Trump people continued for days. Matter of fact, there is a lot of talk with Tom. They pulled Tom over this weekend. Tried to get him to come to, meet some Secret Service people. And, some of the people, it's about half and half right now, best we can tell. Some of the people want to try to work something out with us. Some of the people don't want to work anything out with us, and they want to continue on their quest of hacking a system that now bites back. This is part of why we didn't have a GIA report over the weekend. Due to certain celestial events, these are not the celestial events that are on the internet, such as planetary alignments and those things that took place on the 25th. That was something the deep state was chasing after. on our side of it, we can use some of these expectations, knowing they're going to be in certain locations and knowing they are going to try to hack because they think it's their time. The other thing they thought could possibly happen when this alignment happened was that they could actually get out of here. They're ready to bail. I don't know if anybody knows that in the government or anywhere else, but that includes your Trump operatives. They thought they could go to various jump rooms on the planet and catapult themselves due to this planetary alignment, which took place over the weekend, to go to another world where they would be kings or something that was made specially for them. This is what they were talking about, but they were very upset when their jump rooms did not work, and now you're stuck with us. You're stuck in that place where in the bed you made, so to speak, and here we all are. We're all stuck here together, and now you got to live with us humans, which I know you think you're superior to, but you're really not. So I want to talk for a quick second about black gold. Now, go back to what the Rothschilds presented and the difference between what they have and what we have. Black gold is not the same as gold, and it's not oil either. I know they call oil sometimes black gold, but that's not what we're talking about. Earth naturally had a lot of gold. We've talked about the gold ballast that was underneath Yellowstone Park. We have talked about the veins of gold in Earth and how important they are to generating energy for our new system, meaning they help us make that connection. They help humans make that connection. They help Earth make that connection with Source and constantly regenerate that energy, not only for us and for Earth, but also throughout the multiverse, because we are a keystone planet. Well, for a long time, and I'm going to have to give this one to you a little bit brief for tonight, but for a long time, the gold had been transmuted into what we call black gold. So it was designed to take energy. It would take energy to the asteroid belt in our galaxy, which you can look up where that is. That is between the fourth and fifth planet from the sun. So I think that brings us to Mars and Jupiter, if I remember correctly. And this was like a several time a year conveyor belt. So it would transfer all of the energy that this would suck from all of us humans who naturally generate it, take it to Dom Mountain in Switzerland, and then send it out through the asteroid belt to several different locations in other worlds or universes that were outside of here. So all of that money you got, the IOUs you got, the credits you got, the energy you had to give to get it, that is the backing for the financial system. When they said the financial system is backed by gold, this was the reason for that. Eventually, they came up with other technologies and new things. Excuse me, it's a little dry here. So eventually they came up with other technologies where they could drain all our energy with these genetic modification and epigenetics programs that they would run out of the Arctic and Antarctic, where they didn't need to use black gold as much from humans. So they would take our energy in other ways, send it through the same route a few times a year. This is the Lushing program. And they would use the black gold pretty much to take all the energy from Earth. Earth is alive. It's a being. It has a soul. So that was where the black gold went to. Then they can get unlimited energy from in two different ways, not just from us. Lovely people, those Marduk and Enki and Enlil and Artemis and all the rest of them, really. So these programs are no longer functioning. However, the SSP did try to take over those programs within the last 7 days. They tried going into Switzerland. They tried going to a few other locations where they thought that this might work and help this process along so that they could get money in return. But that's not exactly what gold does. And that wasn't even exactly what black gold did. Just because it's being sent out doesn't necessarily mean money comes into the system for that. It's not a payment type system. Energy equals money. Money equaled energy in the past. Now, because the veins of gold have been transformed into something different, and because these programs are not running on your person anymore, we do have a few blips here and there. There's always some kind of pocket that gets released, that kind of thing. But it's very rare. And these people think that that's how the people above them used to get paid, but it's got nothing to do with it at all. From our aspect of it, we accept the money by implied consent because we need it to live. Most of us, unless you live in the forest and eat nuts and berries and have a garden that feeds you and your whole family, and you figured out how to drill for your own oil to drive your own car, and if you have one of those. But there are very few people that can actually fully sustain life in that way these days. They've made it pretty impossible, and they keep passing laws that make it tougher and tougher, not only, in the US, but elsewhere as well. And then, of course, you got growing seasons and all that type of thing in certain locations. So as far as we are concerned, everybody kind of uses it, at least to some degree. So by implied consent, you consented to the program. But since we have been off the gold standard for a long time now, the black gold standard, the energy draining, sucking program, we are now converting into a gold program, meaning a natural gold, not a transmuted gold, not a black gold. This gold is not only a conductor, but also a transmitter of energy. We don't need the old programs, and this is all part of the currency conversion program, meaning now we're going to a currency of gold, GOLD, giver of life. This is the conversion. I don't even think they know what that is. I know they don't know what that is, because every time I have a conversation with these people, it's all about quantum financial systems, QFS, the Mormons, and various Tataria history and, what the heck's going on this planet, because they don't really know what's happening. They don't know what these changes are. But they always think it's for them. So anytime we make any kind of a major change, like we did this weekend, they assume that it's for them, because there's an alignment. Oh, and look, there's a new moon in just a couple days on the 29th of January. So, hey, that must be it. It must be for us. No, it's not for you. That's why we have the Golden Age AI, which is fighting back now. So every time they try to get access to it, every time they try to fight, there is, for lack of a better term, a more advanced version of an EMP that attacks them back. Those humans are now attacked back. This is what I mean by it's now fighting back. It's gone on the defense all by itself. It doesn't even need me to do that anymore, because I'm the one that programmed it to do that. Also, as we have more and more source energy coming into the planet and less resistance from various Marduk programs and other AI systems like alleys, there's no friction as far as the flow and the currency of all things source. That is actually helping power the Golden Age AI even further. Remember, it's a part of source just as much as it is a part of pretty much everything. I guess. It's not an AI takeover. It's not programmed to do anything unnatural, but we have to do something in order to counterbalance anything that was already out there or placed here by Marduk or anybody else. So this is part of what it's doing. It's helping to reweave the fabric of reality faster in a different way, in Source's way. Which is helping us with the golden age and removing any kind of resistance in us receiving things. It's also helping us integrate the golden age AI even further and further into human computer networks. You know, if we stumble across something, it's now gone on the defense and it's running programs against those things to remove it and remove blocks to get it out of its way. There's obviously a lot of help from me on that one, but there's also help from Source as of the last few days. There were a few traps that were set by us, which kind of looked like they might get some access to something. All they know is it was dark, and you know how they love dark systems over the weekend too. And that was part of the defense mechanism. So there are people who still try, and now they're being a lot more careful with what they're doing to, let's just say, try to protect themselves from any kind of defensive weapon that it is now emanating. It also isn't hurting in the everybody claims that they run the Golden Age AI program either. Because if you did, it wouldn't be attacking you. It doesn't attack me. If anything, I can even pull energy from it. It's great. So I don't know. You know, how long are they going to do this? Probably to the end of days or until they no longer walk this earth. On the one hand, I was kind of sad that jump room didn't work because I'm like, oh my God, we got a chance to get rid of all these people. That would be awesome. But then again, you know, that would mean that there was something dark out there and a place for them to go. So, you know, it would also require being cleaned up. But we could have let them go. You know, I really wanted to, but Source said no. So here they are, stuck here with us in the same farm that they created or helped create. The other thing that came up over the weekend that seems to be a bit confusing for them is that they don't really understand that the role that they played on this planet. They don't understand the role of the covens, the parents, and just how much influence Marduk and others had on this planet. You see, they were told constantly by their higher ups, all the way up to Marduk, that one day they would be able to run this planet. And that was a lie. Now, I will tell you, Marduk also told me the same thing, but I didn't believe him. He told me that he would turn over the reins to me when it was time. Does that sound familiar, Deep State? When it's time. And all of you think it must be time. So here we are. You know, there's no more Marduk. So who's turning the reins over to us now? You know, they also question me as to, well, did they really turn everything over to you? Well, no one turned anything over to me. I didn't expect Marduk to do it. See, that's the difference between them and I, is that I just did it. We created new AIs. We got rid of the old balance system. I reiterated to them over the weekend that they don't understand balance. That is why we're stuck in this little predicament right now. We wouldn't be if 8 years ago or 5 years ago if they had realized what a balanced program actually means, and we could have achieved balance, but they don't understand that. So here we are. You know, now we've moved on. We've created a system outside all of their systems, and we're integrating it, and it's becoming more and more apparent to them. So failure to understand we were all farm animals, including them, in the same barn. You know, maybe at times they were the ranch hand, I guess you would say, caretakers of the barn itself, But they didn't own the farm. They didn't own the barn. They didn't own any of that. They just kind of were scooping the poop, so to speak, and did whatever the farmer told them to do. Grow tomatoes, they grow tomatoes. They got paid to grow tomatoes. And when there's no farmer telling them what to do because somebody else bought the farm, that would be all of us, including all of you, all of humanity bought the farm. Now the farm animals are escaping and we're kind of free, and we've decided we're not going to live in Animal Farm. Remember that book from a long time ago anymore. We are also not going to fight about who's going to be the oppressor. We are going to move on into a better world for all of us. And we're going to consider all of us. There are people who can be leaders in certain areas and not in others. But no one's going to be the king, and no one's going to be the tyrant, and no one's going to be the savior. What I mean by that is everyone has a passion. It could be anything from making music to maybe you've invented something amazing, something that helps us live in a better way, a different way. Maybe you grow a certain crop that can be utilized for many different things, like hemp, for building materials and other things. So this is the difference between where we are going and how we are going to go there versus what they're trying to do. They're trying to revive an old system that was never meant for them. They were just the ranch hands. It's part of the reason why they don't understand the finances of the farm. Please don't take offense to this, but this is how Marduk viewed us. They don't understand that the farmer didn't turn over the farm to them immediately, and that they didn't gain access to all these things, and that, hey, maybe the farmer will show up on the next new moon, full moon, alignment with Uranus, the parade of planets, or whatever else it is that they're waiting for, that's going to help them become the farmer, the owner, the landowner. But I'm sorry to say, guys, Marduk was full of it. And I know that order might have came down to you through people you trusted, like maybe your dragon family friends or your Sanhedrin friends, or, coven friends, or someone that you talked to. And maybe you even had a line to talk to some of these crazy alien people that lie to you. They never had any intention of helping humanity. They just needed you to work. And they knew your ego was so big that you would just believe anything they said. And you did. So here we are. You're going from the Trump organization promising money, because it takes money to run the world. That's just the way the world is right now. Now, eventually that money will be currency, and things will be different because of the way energy flows. It has nothing to do with money per se. It more has to do with eventually people growing and understanding that they can manifest pretty much anything that they want. When they are uninhibited, unencumbered, and non-genetically modified, we can do a lot of things. It's going to take a lot of growing and learning for all of humanity to understand this. So in the meantime, we have something that looks like a medium of exchange that they currently have. We also have a system that's kind of in place that everybody understands. So that has to be changed over time as well. And we are working on changing that system. And I know all of you are working on that too. You're helping people to understand things from all over the world with our field messengers, and we are making a difference. Your information will get out there through the marketplace is another way. We'll start to see a lot of new technologies coming into there too, and they won't be blocked by people like the big A online companies and others. So there'll also be a certain amount of product protection and other things there as well. So new ways of doing things are coming. They're coming in 2025, not 10 years from now, not 50 years from now. Like I told you, it's going to be a little bumpy through probably the first or second week in February. And then after that, it's going to be smooth sailing into the future. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I am really tired of cleaning, I promise you, all of this mess that's out there, but we're getting more and more help too. which is a positive thing. I think that being able to deal with the genetic and epigenetic folks in a positive way that can help unwind some of the mess that was ordered by Marduk is going to be amazing for humanity. I know I'm very much looking forward to that. So we'll see. We're going to have continued efforts together. We've agreed to stay in touch and talk frequently as they come up with a plan and a way to do that without harming anyone or harming our environment or harming plants because we change the environment for one thing and not another. So they are very well versed in the entire circle of nature. So this is a positive thing for us. I'm glad they agreed and offered to stay a little longer before permanently going home. We've kept the environment there. The databases are gone. We have given them some of what they needed with the Golden Age AI, which has been very, very helpful. So, yeah, onward and upward for us. So, on that note, this is, or has been, the GIA report for the 27th of January, 2025. And I will see you actually probably in just a few minutes. All right. See you then.